Our next author is Des Bowman. Hey Des, how are you today?
Alison, how you doing?
Excellent, thank you. Thanks so much for being here. Des is the author of Without Love, I Am Nothing. Break the chains of the past to live your best future. What or who inspired you to write this book?
Well, I don't know really where it started. I had trouble writing my name, let alone writing a book. But I share my experiences as a young boy being exposed to domestic violence and the being vulnerable to being influenced by the wrong people throughout my life. And I had no idea that there were people around that would attract them or pursue kids who come from a domestic violence environment. And I've learnt that children exposed to domestic violence are easily recruited by drug dealers, outlaw gangs, terrorist organisations and pedophiles. And unfortunately, I was recruited or influenced by pedophiles from a very young age and sexually abused, and grew up with a lot of shame and guilt in my life, a lot of rejection as a result of the domestic violence that took place in our home, and lived in a lot of fear of relationships and looked for anyone that would show interest in me. So it was easy for guys like this to prey upon me. And the tragedy of losing my dad at the age of 41 through suicide, he was found on the floor dead of our home when I was 19 years of age. That further put me to a greater level of rejection and unworthiness that I suppressed with alcohol abuse, gambling addictions, overachievements in work, and a lot of other things that I had no idea were going to come back and bite me big time years ahead, with depression, anxiety disorder, to a point where I almost took my own life. And I've no doubt there are many young people out there, particularly guys, who end up doing that as a result of suppressing stuff that they have been exposed to as young children. Not many people who take their lives understand why they've ended doing so. The families never find out. People don't connect to what happens when they're 40 as a result of experiences they had when they were 10, 15 years of age. In the USA, for example, you've got 47,000 people who have taken their lives in the last 12 months. And that's a lot of people who've lost their lives. 70% of those are white males around the age of 45. And there's a lot of dads, uncles, fathers, brothers, cousins, husbands that have gone. And most people don't know why. There's people taking weapons into schools and taking the lives of others as a result of anger and violent behaviour. And really, there's so many people living well below their true potential as a result of being exposed to domestic violence and abuse and rejection. 670,000 kids in the USA are living in foster care today as a result of people not being able to look after them because they're carrying stuff from their past.
Right, so this really touches on a lot of very tough, sensitive issues that are a lot more prevalent than I think a lot of people realize or even want to admit. So it's wonderful that you share your personal experience with that to be able to benefit others.
Well, the book is just part of my journey. I speak in schools. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that's pretty powerful that turns the lights on for people of all ages why they may have developed violent, substance abusive and self-harming behaviours. That I guide them through my journey to pursue help before they become a problem in the community themselves.
Yeah, so what is the overall message that you want readers to gain from reading this book?
Well, it's okay. It's okay to come forward about stuff that's bothering you. You know, through pride. Pride is the greatest killer of men. Diversions become addictions. Alcohol, drugs, gambling, all sorts of stuff will become an addiction because you'll need more of it to suppress the crap that's been handed down to you in the early days. So, guys, and particularly guys, if you want to live life to be your best, to be your best husband, father, grandfather, friend you can be, it's okay to come forward about stuff like this. And there's many of you out there, 1 in 3 women experience sexual abuse at some point of their life, somewhere between 1 in 4 and 1 in 6 guys. The reason the figures aren't so definitive amongst men is the reluctance of guys to come forward. But just, domestic violence has so many offshoots of issues. Terrorist organisations, drug dealers, pedophiles, outlaw gangs will gravitate to people like that. Or young kids will gravitate to those people because they show an interest in them. And they need to know there's more to life than that too.
So this book can really be a solace to people at home that are struggling with these kind of issues, very widespread, so you have a large audience here. If you're at home watching and you'd like to pick this up, you can do that at morganjamesbooklaunch.com along with all of our other amazing books today. Just thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thanks, Alison.